Hello, everyone. Welcome to our Can-Rgx live Q&A session. My name is Alina Kunitska. I'm a projects chair for SEDS-Canada. So in our session today, we're going to start with a quick introduction about Can-Rgx and the timeline and the application process. And if you have any questions, please feel free to post those in the comment section on Facebook or YouTube, and we'll eventually get to a Q&A period. So first, a quick introduction about SEDS-Canada. SEDS-Canada, which stands for Students for the Exploration and Development of Space. We work on providing students with opportunities to conduct projects and attend space-related events to help students gain hands-on experiences in the space industry, as well as provide professional development opportunities. And CANRGX is one of our projects that we do to achieve this. And right now, I'll pass it on to Ben, one of our assistant project managers for Can-Rgx, to give us an introduction.
Hi, everyone. So as Alina mentioned, my name is Ben Saunier. I'm one of the assistant project managers for Can-Rgx. So what is Can-Rgx? It stands for the Canadian Reduced Gravity Experiment Design Challenge. It's a competition for post-secondary students that allows teams to design and test small scientific experiments on board the National Research Council's Falcon 20 aircraft. Now, that aircraft has been specifically modified for reduced gravity research flight in association with the Canadian Space Agency. Now, when you take your experiment on the Parabolic Flight, this is a little bit what this is going to look like. So we've got several phases of a parabola. Starting out with some level flight, the aircraft accelerates, picks up some speed, and then pitches up. During that pitch up, the aircraft will experience 2 times or almost 2 times the force of gravity, which we call the hypergravity period, and allows the aircraft to start climbing. Now, as the aircraft reaches nears the top of the parabola, it's going to start pitching over downwards, and so that's when you're going to feel that microgravity. Microgravity approaches 0 G. We get a period of about 20 seconds, sometimes a little bit less, before the aircraft starts accelerating again on the backside of the parabola. Again, once the aircraft nears the level of flight, we're going to get another pitch up, about 2 Gs, a hypergravity period, and then the aircraft will regain level flight. On the next slide here, we have a very interesting video which will demonstrate a little bit what that looks like. So we can see here, we're in the beginning of the parabola. The crew of the aircraft is experiencing the 2 G pull up right now. So the period of hypergravity. We can see the aircraft pitching up here at the side window. Now in the cabin, we can see 2 teams along with our 2 NRC flight test engineers that support these operations. Now, as the aircraft nears the top of the parabola, the pilots will soon be pitching over, and we can see the 2 erasers at the top there will start floating around. We jokingly call these microgravity indicators, but they are quite literally used by the pilots to judge how the aircraft is flying the parabola. In the cabin, we can also see everything floating around. We can see the students floating around. Now, as we reach the bottom of the parabola, we can see the crew is experiencing the 2 G pull there as they get pushed by the force of gravity back down into their seats. So this is a little bit of an overview of what you might get to experience if you get selected to fly your experiment in microgravity on board the NRC's aircraft. I'll pass it off now to Pat, who's also assistant project manager with us at CANRGX.
Awesome. Thanks, Ben. I love watching that video. It always gets me super hyped up about RGX because really it's such a unique competition for undergrad students that we have here in Canada. Throughout this competition, you get access to a wide range of professional skills and experiences. You'll get to see things like walking through a complete engineering design cycle and really have the ability to take charge of your own full-fledged research experiment, which is something very unique to these types of experiences that you can get. You'll be able to experience microgravity, learn about what microgravity science is all about, build connections with professionals from the aerospace industry, and you get to perform meaningful science, which many students later will go on to publish the works that they from the experiments they perform on the Falcon. And finally, you're able to really get a chance to communicate and present your work to both subject matter experts in the field of microgravity research, but also to the public in general. So all of these experiences are so transferable in any field that you might want to transfer this across. And it's also just an incredible time and a ton of fun to be involved in this experiment. So these are just some of the things that you get as a student competing in this project. If you're looking for a little bit of inspiration for whatever you might want to put into an experiment, these are a list of different experiments that we've flown in the past, and they come from a wide range of backgrounds. We see stuff from physical sciences, like this liquid rope coil effect, where a very viscous fluid has the tendency to kind of stack up and coil on itself in normal gravity or in 1G, and observing how these effects change in microgravity is a very interesting experience. It's same with parallel plate droplet morphing. This is another fluid dynamics experiment to analyze how the change in fluid dynamics happen when we remove gravity from the experiment. We see other things like technical development and technical demonstrations. A team last year flew a microbial fuel cell, which is essentially a battery that's generated through biological processes. The charge is generated through biological processes. And this was an exciting experiment because we could see how these fuel cells would react to changes in gravity, which are important if you want to get these fuel cells into space or on rockets and things like that, to see how well they can generate power in difficult circumstances. And then we also see experiments coming from life sciences, the areas of DNA replication and error rate changes, as well as different effects of changes in gravity on genetic regulation of human telomeres. This is a project that we saw last year. And this just gives you a glimpse at the wide range of fields you can explore with RGX. And whatever your team in particular is interested in, there is a place for it in this competition. So just to give you an idea of what you can expect out of this competition, this is a rough timeline of how we set up the project. So proposals are we're currently accepting proposals. Applications are open and they're due at the end of October. October 22nd is the final dates to submit your proposals. And then we'll go through a review process through ourselves and also some of our subject matter experts at the Canadian Space Agency and the National Research Council. And by the middle of November, we will select the teams who move on to the next stage of the competition, where the building and the review process begins. We'll have 2 design reviews, a preliminary review in the middle of February, and then another one at the beginning of May, where we will assess your projects and see how the progress goes towards finalizing your experiments. And then this year, we'll be having our flight campaign in the early time of June, sometime in the second to third week of June, where you'll be invited to bring your experiments on board the Falcon and actually experience microgravity. So that wraps up the timeline for our intention of this project. But Louis, I'll pass this off to you and you can take it from here.
For sure. Thanks, Pat. So I'm Louis. I'm the project manager for RGX this year. And to build off of what Pat was just saying, I'll run you through some of the things that you'll need to know for the application process to begin with. So the biggest resource for us is going to be our website. If you go to seds.ca/CANRGX, you'll find everything you need for the application and to stay up to date throughout the campaign, throughout the year even, for what's going on. And so the primary resource that will be that you'll be asked to access is the student handbook that we put out. This will have everything for all the major milestones, all the minor milestones, all the deliverables that we'd be looking for, as well as everything related to the application process. So really this document is easy to download. It's either PDF or Word if you prefer. And that should give you everything you need to know for the application. And like I said, throughout the year, the main resource for you. This also outlines some of the guidelines we have for what experiments we're looking for. as well as some of the support that we can offer you throughout the year and beyond. So the website will also have other key links there. As you see on the screen, it mentions the interest form. So on the website, you'll see the expression of interest form. This is a quick Google form that we'd ask you to fill out before submitting your proposal, if you can. And this just gives us a heads up for what might be coming our way and to give some preliminary feedback for when the proposals actually come in. And then following on that is a very brief instructions for submitting the proposals that will actually, I'll be posting up here in a couple slides for what that looks like. But the website will also have more than that. Like Pat was just mentioning of previous experiments, you can actually see the log of all the past teams. This is the 5th campaign, so you have 4 previous years to look back on to get inspired by. And not only what they have done, what past teams have done, but also what relevant areas of research we're looking for that would also complement the CSA's mandate for areas of research. More on that on the website, as well as a FAQ. If this Q&A wasn't enough for you today, a lot of our frequently asked questions are on the website as well. So really take a look there. That's the first stop you should have for this project. Now, I think if you have any questions in the chat, we will field them anytime now. But also, if you have questions, if you're watching this video a little bit later, mention them in the comments, and we'll do our best to take a peek at them and answer them there. We're also very active through our email. So that's probably one of the best ways to reach us if you have questions or concerns or are looking for any other information from us. So I'm joined now by the rest of the team, and we'll go through some of the questions that we have here. Let me see.
I guess I have a question that maybe Louis or the rest of the team could answer. But now, since we see a lot more life sciences experiments, one of the commonly asked questions is, can we perform experiments on humans, animals, or living cells?
Well, you're right that we've been doing more life science questions. We seem to be tending that direction. But unfortunately, we can only experiment on anything that falls within a biohazard risk group of 1. So only risk group 1 level experiments. And as well, we can't do anything that requires an ethics board of approval. So if that was something that you were thinking about, unfortunately, you'll have to maybe reframe the question in a way that will work with our guidelines.
So one of the things that people often wonder about too, before embarking on this grand adventure of flying in microgravity is, do you get any training before embarking on your flight?
For sure. Actually, Pat, do you want to field this one with the?
Yes, for sure. The answer is yes. You certainly do get training for your parabolic flight. So our partners who work with us at the National Research Council do many microgravity flights. They are flying all the time, and part of their procedures is when you arrive on site, you will be briefed on what to expect during your flight. You'll be told exactly how to react and what I didn't know at the beginning or starting out these flights is that you are part of the crew while you're on the Falcon. So it's not a passenger aircraft. No one is a passenger. You are a crew member, and so you are trained to be a crew member not flying the plane, obviously, but in a capacity where you receive all the training that you need to take the flight properly and to know what to expect. What we also do throughout the campaign, or what we tried to do, is allow multiple opportunities for a team to fly. So generally there is a flight or a section of a flight where you get acclimatized to the microgravity experience. And so you're not going in blind. You have a bit of instruction, training, and experience going into your flight so that when it's time to collect your data, you are completely prepared for what's to come.
And, another question we have is, can international students apply, and can you apply if you're a part-time student? And the answer is yes, you can, to both of these questions. You can apply as an international student as long as you're enrolled in a Canadian post-secondary institution, whether it's university or college. And yes, you can participate in CANRGX if you're a part-time student.
To add on to that, Alina, what about high school students?
For high school students, we encourage university teams to engage high school students in their projects. And so if you're a high school student, if you look for some university projects to join, that could be a great experience to get started in participating in CANRGX.
Awesome. And yeah, and this year as well, we had, I think, a couple of teams that had recruited some high school students that participated in the design of the experiment. So really a great opportunity.
And then maybe not related to the application process, but so Lou and Patrick both participated in CANRGX before joining the organization team. And Ben actually got to fly this summer as part of SEDS-Canada team. So maybe first, Pat and Louis, if you want to comment on how the experience was for you participating in CANRGX, and then Ben, if you could share your experiences being in microgravity.
Sure, I'll jump in there first, Alina. So I flew my experiment on the 2019 CANRGX campaign. So when I did that, I was interested in a fluid dynamics style experiment. So we were interested in looking at the behavior of fluids between charged electric plates. And by using a very high voltage of plates, we could kind of control the shape of these fluids and stimulate flow in gravity, which was really interesting for us because it could kind of hint towards designs of pumps that would work without any moving parts, which is one of the challenges for long-term space travel, is that when you have moving parts, they wear out, they need to be replaced. But if you could create a pump to move fluid without any of these moving parts, they'll have very long service lives. So this was something that my team was interested in looking at. And we had an amazing time with this project. It was incredible. So much so that I had to come back and keep working with SEDS here on the CANRGX from the management side. But just what was the most special to me about this campaign, which I still keep talking about, is how amazing the folks at the CSA and the NRC are with the students who are competing. There's just this amazing energy, and they're so excited to have students here bringing in a fresh take, and they really want to encourage you to take the reins on your project and to get out there and really do some research. That was the most exciting thing for me, was that they were inspired by the students coming in, who were bringing all this energy and being very excited to try new things and to look at this microgravity research with fresh looks. And that's something that you can really get out of the campaign, and something that's a special experience when someone very experienced in the field gives you all of the attention and kind of all of the encouragement that you could ever want, honestly, in a research experiment. So it's really quite something special.
Yeah, definitely. And I mean, so I flew in the campaign just before Pat in 2018, and I remember from my perspective as a student, it was a totally amazing experience to be able to have an idea for something to be done in microgravity, assemble an amazing team around ourselves to actually execute on this, and then through that, it was being able to build up that multidisciplinary team where we had someone doing software, electrical, the mechanical structure integration, sort of all the management perspective, it's basically ground up with the aim and the end goal of achieving this microgravity flight. So going from zero to to a finished product was a wild experience from a student perspective, and is a great experience tick mark for resumes and for employers and for your own personal growth. I don't know how to hype it up more than that. But I had such a great time with it as well.
Going
my
from
cherry on
zero
top is definitely going to be
to
the
zero
Microgravity
gravity.
Flight. So that's really like the pinnacle of it at the end. Yeah.
From my part, coming from a bit of a different background from Patrick, Louis, and Alina, having never flown in the campaign before starting to volunteer with SEDS as assistant project manager for CANRGX. One of the things that I thought was really cool is just seeing it all come together for the flight campaign. I mean, you see, we're working behind the scenes, assisting the teams, coordinating with NRC, and just to see it all come together at the end, the teams to meet each other. Last year was a particularly tough campaign because of COVID-19. We had a lengthened campaign, and so really to see it all come together at the NRC at the end for the flight campaign was really, really cool experience. Of course, it was all capped off by being able to actually take the flight and experience microgravity. And it's a sensation that you don't necessarily expect. It's quite a pleasant feeling once you're actually in microgravity, and it's hard to describe unless you've experienced it. And so, having come down from that, it's really a unique experience that I think anyone would be lucky to have. So, if there's these two elements, the community or the sense of community that you get from the flight campaign, and then just the actual flight experience itself, both are pretty awesome.
Absolutely.
Great.
And
Yeah.
to clarify for the teams that are selected, there will be 2 members from every team that will be performing the experiment as mission specialists and joining the crew. As Pat was saying, you're part of the crew when you are one of the mission specialists. So there'll be 2 people per team. They'll be able to do this flight in June. We're still aiming for a June flight campaign. Yeah.
Hopefully we've convinced some people to apply for CANRGX. And I think we have some more time for questions, whoever wants to jump in to answer these. But another question is, can graduate students participate? And is there a limit to how many people you can have on the team?
Well, in that, there isn't a limit with the number of people. Again, 2 people will be flying, but supported by a ground crew. And even before that, for those who don't make it out to the actual flight campaign, there's a whole build-up for the year before. So there's no limit for the number of members on your team, but you do have to be affiliated with one primary Canadian institution. So if it's you can have collaborating members from outside, but it has to be, the team itself must be affiliated with one institution. As far as graduate students, yes, please, you're more than welcome to. One thing we ask, though, is that no more than a third of the team should be graduate students. So it's primarily an experience for undergraduate students. However, we recognize that graduate students are often in the middle of research or seeking help with their research, or can offer their experience and insight for undergraduate students on the team. So that type of partnership is more than welcome and encouraged, for sure.
Great. And maybe one last question, unless anyone else has any questions, send those to us in the chat. But another question is, can experiments involve flammable materials if they're properly contained?
Oh, the flammable material question. Unfortunately, no. There are specific experiment constraints on what can be done in the handbook, or what can be done in the flight, and these are all outlined in the handbook. So another constraint that we get asked about is actually free-floating things. So we don't have any free-floating experiments. Everything's contained within a Pelican case, basically a sealed, contained box. And so within the dimensions of this box, you should propose an experiment that fits those. But for very comprehensive experimental constraints, please check the handbooks. And if you have any questions further than that, send us an email and we'll be happy to field those for you.
Great. So I think we're approaching the end of our 30-minute Q&A. And since we don't have any more questions in the chat, I'll let Louis wrap us up.
Yeah, fantastic. Once again, to summarize the steps to apply, first and foremost, form a team and come up with an awesome idea for a microgravity experiment. Find a faculty advisor at your school or primary institution that will support your project. This is a necessary step, and we'll be seeking that form. And then by October 22nd, submit the best proposal you can. And then by mid-November, we will have our review of all the submitted proposals and let you know which teams are selected. So for submitting the proposals or for any questions, please email us at Can-Rgx@SEDS.ca. And also take a look at our website, which is SEDS.ca/Can-Rgx for all the information that you can find there.
Yeah, and before we end, I'll also mention that if you do think of any questions, we are hosting another Q&A session this Thursday at 8 p.m. Eastern Time. So feel free to join or feel free to email us with any questions.
Yeah, fantastic.
Great.
So with that, I'll probably see you on Thursday then, Alina. That's October 6th.
Yes.
All right.
I'll see everyone on Thursday. Thanks everyone for joining.
Bye, everyone.
Bye, everyone. Thanks.